we had a very special guest on the show several times, and his name is Tate, and he thought that I was his girlfriend, and so I told him he was my boyfriend, which shocked my wife. And but he was a very special little human being, and just brought joy and life and laughter into every room that he was in. And I will miss him. And
what happens when America's reigning queen of kind is exposed for allegedly ruling a kingdom of fear? For nearly 2 decades, Ellen DeGeneres wasn't just a talk show host, she was a cultural phenomenon. A beacon of feel-good television whose daytime stage became a sanctuary for laughter, dancing, and unbelievable generosity. Her entire global empire was built on a simple, 4-word mantra: be kind to one another. But while the world was watching her give away cars and dance with celebrities, a darker story was brewing behind the scenes. The truth behind the collapse of her 19-year run is more shocking, more complex, and more disturbing than you can imagine. And it forces you to question if you ever really knew her at all. At the very heart of Ellen's carefully crafted image were stories of profound compassion. And none captured the world's heart more than her bond with a young boy named Tate Anderson. Tate was a fighter, born with a severe heart defect that meant his childhood was a revolving door of hospitals and operating rooms. To get through the pain of recovery after one of his 12 major surgeries, he'd watch Ellen's show, and with the innocence only a child can have, he started calling her his girlfriend. It was a sweet joke that soon spiraled into a life-changing reality. In 2013, Ellen flew Tate and his family out to be on the show. The connection was immediate and undeniable. The world watched, tissues in hand, as she showered him with gifts and affection. This was the Ellen everyone believed in, the powerful celebrity with a heart of gold, the one who made a sick child's biggest dream come true. This single interaction was the blueprint for the Be Kind brand, a masterful and incredibly lucrative creation. It wasn't just a catchy sign-off. It was a promise to her millions of viewers that in a harsh world, her show was a safe space. Every viral giveaway, every celebrity scare, every dance down the aisles reinforced the idea that Ellen was a genuine force for good. She became one of the most trusted and beloved figures on the planet, a daytime superstar who seemed utterly incapable of malice. But that flawless image, built so meticulously over the years, was about to be systematically dismantled. The first cracks in the facade appeared in the spring of 2020. It began not with a bang, but with a whisper that grew into a deafening roar. A comedian's tweet asking for stories about Ellen being one of the meanest people alive went viral, opening the floodgates for thousands of replies echoing the sentiment. At the same time, as the world locked down in fear and uncertainty, Ellen made a tone-deaf joke from the comfort of her sprawling mansion, comparing her quarantine experience to being in jail. For a public grappling with job loss and real confinement, the comment was a slap in the face. For the first time, the Queen of Kind seemed less like a compassionate leader and more like a shockingly out-of-touch billionaire. But that was just the appetizer. The main course was served in July 2020 when BuzzFeed News published a bombshell report that sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. 10 former employees and 1 current staffer broke their silence, anonymously describing the set of The Ellen DeGeneres Show as a deeply toxic work environment ruled by fear and intimidation. They spoke of being fired after taking medical leave for cancer treatments or attending family funerals. They detailed instances of racist microaggressions from senior producers and a culture where staffers were allegedly told not to speak to Ellen or even look her in the eye. The kindness that was preached on camera was, according to them, a complete and total fabrication the second the cameras stopped rolling. Just when the world was reeling from those revelations, it got worse. A few weeks later, a second BuzzFeed News investigation dropped, this time with allegations that were far more sinister. Dozens of former employees came forward to report a culture of sexual misconduct and harassment, allegedly perpetrated by the show's top executive producers. The report painted a grim picture of a workplace where powerful men allegedly groped employees and solicited them for oral sex at company events. The Be Kind empire was now being exposed as a kingdom of alleged cruelty and exploitation, and the world was left wondering, how could the woman at the top not have known what was happening right under her nose? As the scandal reached a fever pitch, Ellen finally broke her silence. In a letter to her staff, she expressed remorse but simultaneously appeared to shift the blame. She wrote, "As we've grown exponentially, I've not been able to stay on top of everything and relied on others to do their jobs as they knew I'd want them done. Clearly, some didn't." To many, it sounded less like a heartfelt apology and more like a CEO blaming her deputies for a crisis of her own making. Her on-air apology that fall, where she told the audience she was a work in progress, was met with widespread skepticism. The damage was irreversible. The fallout was a slow, agonizing train wreck. The show's ratings, once untouchable, went into a freefall. Viewers, feeling a deep sense of betrayal, tuned out in droves. 3 of her most senior producers were fired following a deeply flawed internal investigation. In a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding, the show tried bringing in guest hosts and rebranding, but it was too little, too late. The magic was gone. Less than a year after the scandal erupted, Ellen officially announced she was ending her show. She insisted it was a creative decision, but to the world, it looked like a forced surrender. Years later, she would admit what everyone else already knew, telling a comedy club audience, "I got kicked out of show business for being mean." Then, amidst the ashes of her once great empire, a truly heartbreaking chapter came to a close. In September 2025, Tate Anderson, the little boy who had become a symbol of Ellen's on-screen compassion, passed away at just 19 years old after a lifelong battle with health issues. In a tribute video posted online, Ellen's voice cracked with what sounded like genuine emotion as she called him her boyfriend and a very special little human being. It was a raw, undeniable moment of grief, a fleeting glimpse of the caring, empathetic woman the world had once fallen in love with. And this brings us to the haunting, unanswered question at the center of her legacy. Who is the real Ellen DeGeneres? How can the woman who showed such authentic love and generosity for a sick child be the same person accused of fostering such a cold and brutal work environment? Her staunchest defenders would say she was simply a victim of her own monumental success, a boss who was insulated from the toxicity by a layer of ruthless producers. But her critics would argue that the kindness was always just an act, a brilliant performance that finally slipped to reveal the darkness underneath. The tribute to Tate, coming years after her public disgrace, only muddies the waters. Was it a pure, heartfelt expression of sorrow for a boy she truly cared about? Or was it also a calculated, strategic reminder of the good Ellen, a final attempt to salvage a legacy in tatters? In the end, Ellen DeGeneres leaves behind a story of shocking duality. It's not just about a celebrity's downfall, it's about the fierce collision between a meticulously crafted public persona and a devastating private reality. Her story reveals the immense good she was capable of, right alongside the immense harm that was allegedly done in her name. So we're left to wonder, can moments of televised kindness ever erase years of reported cruelty? Was she the loving friend to a sick child, or the iron-fisted boss who ruled by fear? Perhaps the most shocking truth of all is that she was, somehow, both.